Good evening. I would like to call the November 28, 2016 Bellbrook City Council meeting to order. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mr. Edwards?
Here.
Mr. Greenwood? Here. Mr. McGill?
Here.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
Here.
Mrs. Seeger-Lawson?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Schweller?
Here.
Mayor Baird?
Here. Formal approval of the City Council work session and regular meeting minutes of November 14th, 2016. Does any member on council have any corrections or additions to the regular City Council meeting minutes of our last meeting?
None, Mayor.
None, Mayor.
Seeing none, they are approved as written. Mayor's announcements. We only have one thing on our agenda this evening. We have a new person to appoint to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Mr. Ogrod, would you please come up and we will read you your oath, and thank you very much for volunteering. Sometimes it's hard to get these positions filled, and we have a lot of committees, a lot more than people think. So if you please could, thank you very much. Thank you. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Philip Ogrod,
I, Philip O'Grod,
solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of Ohio,
of the State of Ohio,
and will obey
and will obey
the laws thereof,
the laws thereof,
and that I will,
and that I will,
in all respects,
in all respects,
uphold
uphold
and enforce
and enforce
the provisions of the Charter
the provisions of the Charter
and the ordinances
and the ordinances
of Bellbrook,
of Bellbrook,
and will faithfully discharge
and will faithfully discharge
the duties of
the duties of
the office upon
the office upon
which I'm about to enter.
which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And I just need a signature.
Okay.
And thank you very much, and thank you very much for volunteering. Sometimes there's not much going on with the committee, and sometimes there's a lot. And I don't know, Mark, how's the agenda look?
The Board of Zoning Appeals, particularly Property Review Commission, does meet on a regular basis. Mr. McGill can tell you that. So they've got some issues that come and go. So it's probably one of the more active committees that we have. So you'll be busy.
All right, very good, thank you.
And thank you very much for volunteering. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, and thank you.
Thank you.
And that is all I have for mayor's announcements this evening. We have no public hearings. Introduction of ordinances. We have two this evening. First is ordinance number 2016-13. Mrs. Seeger-Lawson.
Ordinance number 2016-13, an ordinance amending ordinances 2015-16 and 2016-10 to adjust the City of Bellbrook appropriations to reflect additional costs in some line items and reduced costs in other line items. Whereas the City of Bellbrook adopted the 2016 annual budget based on the best information available at the time, and whereas additional costs have or will occur in some line items, and reduced costs are projected in other line items, which requires the amendment of various appropriation levels. Now therefore, the City of Bellbrook hereby ordains Section 1 that the 2016 appropriation levels and several of the funds listed below be amended as follows. There are various adjustments to funds from personnel services, other expenses, and supplemental appropriations for the general fund, as well as police fund, fire fund, street fund. There are 9 funds listed for a grand total of all funds of $60,845 from the personal services, going to $27,700 going to other expenses, and $33,145 coming out of supplemental appropriations. Section 2, this ordinance shall take effect and be enforced from after the earliest period provided by law.
Yes, this is just the introduction of this ordinance, but it amends the 2016 appropriations. This is the second amendment during the year. Ultimately, it actually reduces the appropriations by just over $33,000. some of the changes just are more of a housekeeping type thing because we're changing our chart of accounts with our new software system, so there's a few changes that just had to be made because of that. But the rest of it are just based on the things that have actually occurred during the year and the reality of where we anticipate the 2016 budget ending up. So this will be set for a public hearing to be held at the December 12th council meeting.
Does anyone on council have any questions for our city manager? Seeing none, may I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 2016-13?
I move that we approve ordinance number 2016-13.
May I have a second?
Second.
And roll call.
Motion by Mrs. Seeger Lawson to introduce ordinance number 2016-13, and ordinance amending ordinances 2015-16 and 2016-10 to adjust the City of Bellbrook appropriations to reflect additional cost in some line items and reduced cost in other line items, seconded by Mr. Schweller. Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Schweller?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mr. McGill?
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Mayor Baird?
Yes. We have one more ordinance number 2016-14. Mr. Schweller.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 2016-14, an ordinance approving the appropriations of the City of Bellbrook for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2017. Whereas City Council has reviewed the proposed 2017 annual budget, and whereas the City of Bellbrook desires to adopt the 2017 annual budget and authorize the related appropriations, now therefore the City of Bellbrook hereby ordains, Section 1, that to provide for the current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Bellbrook during the fiscal year ending December 31, 2017, the following sums be, and they are hereby set aside to be appropriated as follows. These amounts are broken down into about probably 10 to 15 different funds, but they're grouped together by personal services in the amount of $749,30, sorry. Other expenses, $3,437,200, and transfers of $500,000 for a grand total 2017 appropriations $7,686,230. Section 2, that the finance director is hereby authorized to make payments from any of the foregoing appropriations upon receiving proper documentation approved by the officers authorized by law to approve the same. In Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect and be enforced from and after the earliest period provided by law. This is our 2017 budget, and we'll anxiously await the city manager presentation on December the 12th.
Yes, I'll have a full presentation of this. Council has spent 3 work sessions going over the detail of this, but I'll have a presentation during the public hearing or prior to the public hearing on December 12th.
Any questions? I know we've met 3 different times for, let's see, an hour and a half each time, so we got a few hours wrapped up in this. So, seeing no questions, may I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 2016-14?
Mayor'd like to move for the introduction of ordinance 2016-14.
May I have a second?
Second.
Yes, Mr. McGill. And roll call.
Motion by Mr. Schweller to introduce ordinance number 2016-14, an ordinance approving the appropriations of the City of Bellbrook for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2017, seconded by Mr. McGill. Mr. Schweller?
Yes.
Mr. McGill?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Mayor Baird?
Yes. We have no resolutions this evening, but I'm sure we have a city manager's report.
Yes, a couple items this evening. First, there is a vacancy on our planning board presently that will be vacant actually as of January 1st. Mrs. Susan Weeks has been on our planning board for 2 complete terms and is ineligible to be reappointed. So that vacancy is currently being advertised on our website. We're accepting applications through the end of this month, at which time the Community Affairs Committee will review those applications and make a recommendation to council here in the future. So if anyone's interested, they can find the application on our website. Plantation Trail Bridge Replacement Project is now complete. The road is open. The road has been paved, everything was done. The weather cooperated with us in this one, and we were able to get it done before the asphalt plant's closed. There's a few punch list items that we'll be reviewing with the contractor here later this week, but for all intents and purposes, that project is done. We'll get the contractor paid, we'll apply for our grant payment from the Ohio Public Works Commission, and get that project off the books. And then finally, Christmas in the Park is scheduled for Saturday, December 10th from 5 to 7 p.m. at Bellbrook Park. The Park District is the one who sponsors this, but it's a nice event. If anyone's interested, it's Saturday, December 10th from 5 to 7 p.m. That is all I have this evening.
Does anyone have any questions for our city manager? I did notice that, not that it really matter, I guess they kept up the road closed signs. They were still up.
Right, yeah, they probably still are. I think there's another contractor that put those signs up, so I'm sure it's just a matter of
Okay.
waiting to get them to take them down, but it's a separate contractor that's
Okay.
doing that work.
Worked out well for me, because I've known not
No
that
one
many
knew it.
people.
Yeah.
So, I have nothing. Seeing nothing on council, we'll move on to committee report. Service,
No report tonight.
safety,
No report, Mayor.
finance and audit.
Mayor, just a brief comment that we're going to talk about the budget, have a public hearing on December the 12th. I want to just, again, congratulate the city manager and the staff for getting the budget done ahead of time. We've gotten long away from passing it as an emergency ordinance. And over the last number of years, we've had our budget in place prior to the start of the new year. So I appreciate your efforts and pushing through in this time frame.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I also appreciate the time and effort you and the staff go through to explain the budget to us and walk through all the items.
There's a lot of detail there that if anyone wants to know, we'll share with them, but yes.
Any other questions for Mr. Schwell on the finance and audit committee?
Nothing else, Mayor.
Community affairs.
Yes, we want to recommend the appointment of Susan Weeks to serve on the Village Review Board. There was a vacancy on that board. And as she comes off the planning board, we'd like to appoint her to the Village Review Board for a term that expires January 31st, 2019.
And so she, you guys already, okay.
Yeah.
May, any questions on council?
No.
So our community affairs committee is already,
We just need a second.
yep. So,
I'll second.
a motion is on the floor for Susan Weeks to serve on the Village Review Board. Term expires 1/31/19, and you got your first, and then Donna was second. Roll call.
Motion by Mrs. Middlestetter to recommend appointment of Susan Weeks to serve on the Village Review Board. Term expires 1/31/19. Seconded by Mrs. Seeger Lawson. Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mr. McGill?
Yes.
Mr. Schweller?
Yes.
Mayor Baird?
Yes. Does anyone council have any old business this evening? Any new business this evening? You okay?
Sorry, no. Choke you up.
Because it's 7:14.
Yeah, no.
Open discussion.
Just one item tonight, Mayor. 2 Saturdays ago, I had the opportunity to ride along with 2 of our Bellbrook police officers from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. It was Officer Sergeant Brian Mead and Officer Nick Davis. I enjoyed the experience. It's kind of tough staying up all night, but I found it very interesting, informative. I'd also like to commend their professionalism and hard work that they do. It's a tough job being out all night like that, but both did an excellent job. That's all I had.
Forrest,
Nothing, Mayor.
on down the line.
I have one item. Troop, I believe it's 750 that was here. We had the Eagle Scout in the
Oh,
last
yep.
council meeting that we had. I had the fortunate meeting of one of the troop leaders at the tree stand down here at the local market at
Oh,
Dots.
Christmas tree stand.
Yes. and-
Today's opening
and-
gun season, so
and-
you had to be
I
going
thought it
there.
was a deer stand.
Apologize for
Didn't know you were
that.
around.
Apologize for that. But the thing I wanted to pass along to council was that the troop appreciated the fact that we were very receptive of them here at the meeting, and they enjoyed themselves and got to learn something about city government that they may not have had the opportunity to take under their selves, in a normal fashion of things. So please, I wanted us to pass that along. And I encourage the folks out there that if they haven't visited that, the Christmas tree store that's over there, they should do that because there's some excellent trees out there for the season.
That's the one in front of Dots.
Oh, in front of Dots,
Yes.
yes.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. McGill, and please let them know we appreciate the comments, and they're welcome anytime.
We'll do that.
Ms. Middlestetter?
Nothing more.
Donna?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
And I have nothing tonight. This is open discussion, so if anyone in the audience would like to come up. I usually pick on young men that come into the audience. Would you like to come up and just say your name and why you're attending the meeting? You can do it.
I'm here for my troop to earn the Communications Merit Badge.
And what troop?
375,
And what's your name?
Isaac.
Isaac? Well, thank you very much for coming, Isaac. Sorry to put you under pressure, but it's communications bad. So thank you very much for coming out tonight. And Isaac has made a great decision on the night that he has picked, because I'm pretty sure we're close to a record this evening.
Shortest
so-
meeting, one of the shortest.
So, and I assume he still gets full credit. So this is open discussion. Does anyone else on council have any other business to come before us this evening? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.